Welcome back wrestling WWE fans. Tonight we dive into a moment that shook Clash in Paris to its very core. A night painted in lights and chants quickly turned into something far darker. It wasn't just about championships, it wasn't just about pride, this was about years of pressure finally cracking into violence. For years, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins have stood at the crossroads of friendship and rivalry. They carried the torch of a generation, from brothers in the Shield to bitter adversaries who could never quite settle the score. Every stare, every promo, every near fall carried the weight of history. Roman has built his empire on dominance, on making others kneel at his feet. Seth, on the other hand, carved his own throne out of chaos, bending rules, seizing moments, and never allowing himself to be overshadowed. That dynamic has always lived in silence, waiting for a night like Paris to explode. Please like, share and subscribe for more WWE content. The crowd inside the arena felt something different from the start. There was tension between these two men that didn't need words. It was there in the way Roman's jaw tightened, in the way Seth smirked like he knew something no one else did. Clash in Paris was meant to be a proving ground, but what unfolded was far deeper. It became a war of egos, a war of family, a war of betrayal that echoed beyond the match itself. As the bell rang, both men carried years of unspoken resentment. Roman's power pressed forward, Seth's speed countered. Every move felt like an argument. Roman saying he's the head of the table, Seth insisting he's been the architect all along. Backstage whispers had hinted at trouble before the show. Some said Roman was tired of being mocked in subtle ways by Seth. Others claimed Seth had grown frustrated with Roman's stranglehold on the main event spotlight. Paris was never going to contain that kind of fire. What makes their history so heavy is not just their matches, but their bond. Once upon a time, they fought side by side, taking down legends together. When Seth drove a chair into Roman's back all those years ago, it planted a wound that never truly healed. And yet, through the years, WWE fans always asked, were these two destined to reunite, or destined to destroy each other? Last night in Paris, we got our answer. The first half of their clash was pure wrestling mastery, but it carried a storm underneath. Roman's eyes burned with frustration, Seth taunted with laughter, and the tension made every second unbearable. Fans cheered, but no one was ready for what came next. Because halfway through the fight, Roman snapped. It wasn't a clean spear, it wasn't a victory-sealing Superman punch. It was raw, violent, and unrestrained. Roman grabbed a steel chair, the very symbol of their fractured brotherhood, and slammed it into Seth with a brutality that silenced the arena. Paris went quiet, as if the entire city had held its breath. Seth, broken and stunned, tried to rise, but Roman's fury had no end. He screamed words that microphones barely picked up. Words about betrayal, words about respect, words that dripped with venom from years of pain. It wasn't just an attack. It was a message. Roman wasn't fighting for titles anymore. He was fighting to remind Seth, and the world, that this was still his kingdom. The officials stormed the ring, trying to stop him, but Roman shoved them away. The brutality was personal. It wasn't about sports entertainment, it was about blood. When Seth finally lay motionless, Roman stood over him, not with celebration but with rage still burning in his chest. The tribal chief had sent a message more powerful than any victory could provide. Backstage after the match, whispers echoed through the hallways. Some said Seth was furious, that this went too far. Others claimed Roman's anger had been boiling for months, and this was the inevitable breaking point. The locker room felt split between loyalty to Seth and fear of Roman. Even family ties felt the ripple. The Usos, the entire Bloodline legacy, have seen Roman use violence to keep order before, but this time it wasn't about outsiders. This was about someone who once called him brother. That changes everything. The emotional aftermath is what makes this story sting. Roman sent a brutal message, but at what cost? The fans, who once respected his dominance, now question if this was the moment he crossed a line he can't return from. For Seth, it's more than physical pain. It's betrayal revisited. The steel chair that once marked his betrayal of Roman has now come full circle, slamming down on him in the cruelest twist of fate. This is not just another chapter in their rivalry. This is a fracture in the legacy of the Shield, a scar that will bleed into WWE's future storylines for years to come. When you strip away the championships, the arenas, and the pyrotechnics, what you're left with is two men bound by trust that no longer exists. That's what makes this moment unforgettable. Roman's message to Seth wasn't written in words. It was carved in steel and fury, a reminder that in WWE, blood does not always equal loyalty. And as the cameras faded in Paris, fans were left with a haunting reflection. When trust breaks, when betrayal resurfaces, and when blood turns on blood, the wounds may never heal.